Hi, I'm Tammy Beilstein. Welcome to Tammy's Window on Calaveras. I am with Sarah Lunsford, who happens to be one of my besties. You'll see when we start talking, we are so alike and we're so different at the same time.
Absolutely.
And it just works. Mm-hmm. We click. So Sarah and I, we do a lot of different things together. And one of the things that got all of these other little things started was a book project. Because probably a lot of you know that Sarah is an author. She writes for the newspaper, for the Lodestar. Mm-hmm. She does all kinds of things. You write
I do
young adult books.
I write young adult books. I've written travel pieces for LA Times, California Golf News and Travel, all these different outlets. So I'm a freelance writer technically, but I write just
you can write anything. Yeah, she can write anything. This girl's got it going on. So, Sarah, tell them about when you went to that conference, right?
Okay, so we have this project that we do, and it's Let's Talk About Death. It's a video blog that you guys can watch on our website, on Facebook, on YouTube, right? YouTube. We don't tweet, so not yet. We don't tweet yet. But it is a video blog that Tammy and I do. If you don't know what Tammy's background is she's really kind of like the death girl, right? Mm-hmm. She
Always
does hospice
been the
stuff.
Death girl.
Yeah, everybody else runs away from death. Tammy runs towards death. Yeah. So what happened is we do this video blog. It's talking about death. It's talking about caregiving, people who are dying. It's really just all centered around death. So,
but the way we started,
was
all because of you and your writing.
Well, that was yes. Yeah. The short answer is yes. What happened is I went to a writers' conference. Being a writer, and I think in any profession, you have to help. You sort of try to improve what you do all the time. Mm-hmm. So I go to writers' conferences, and what happened at this particular writers' conference, I've gone to the same one 4 or 5 times, and there are these very high-end agents there, and classes, publications, that type of thing. And there was this one agent that I met the very first time I went, and I thought, I really want her to be my agent because she's awesome, and she's like the top one in her field, and this and that and the other thing. And that whole year, I prayed and prayed and prayed. I said, Lord, I want her to be my agent. And I didn't get an answer, and I was like, okay.
But the big guy was listening.
Well, I guess so. Yeah. So I prayed for another year. Let her be my agent. And then what happened was I saw her the next year, and I realized there was nothing that I would write that she would be interested in. Mm-hmm. And I thought, there's no way this is ever going to happen. So I didn't pray for that anymore. I was like, nah. And every time I went to that writers' conference, I would run into her. Mm-hmm. So I think it was the 3rd time I said something. We always ended up sitting at these tables together too. It was so weird,
Really, you and her.
Yeah, and a few other people, but we always ended up at the same table. And the year before the story I'm about to tell you, I said something at the table, and it was like open mouth, insert foot. And she went, she literally went, and I went, wow, if there was any thought that prayer ever would have worked, it is done. It is gone. So like I said, stop, no more praying for that.
Oh, I'd love to know what you said.
Off camera, maybe, not on camera. But anyway, so what happened was I was at this writing conference this last time, and the last day of the conference, a friend of mine and I, we were like so tired. We've been dragging around this conference for 4 days, and we ended up sitting at this agent's table. Mm-hmm. And what this agent does for mealtime is that she goes around to everyone at her table, and she asks, what are you writing? What are you working on? This type of thing. And I thought, what in the world am I going to tell her? Because I'm not going to tell her I do young adult stuff because she has no interest in young adult stuff. Right.
But at the same time, you're like, this is my chance.
No, I didn't even think that.
Because you're sitting right with her.
I was right with her, but I thought, I literally was like, there's no way ever. So I was going in my head, what am I going to tell her? And so my friend tells her, she was writing this wonderful Bible study series, and she wasn't interested in that. And I was like, oh, okay. Finally, I was like, I'm just going to tell her what I do for a living, right?
Yeah.
And that is I write journalistic stories. I'm a freelance writer, right? I write entertainment stories. I write this, I write that. And I said, and I do a blog about, or a column about the sandwich generation. Mm-hmm. So what happens to me when you start talking about the sandwich generation and caregiving.
Tell everyone what that means.
Sandwich generation is when you are taking care of a young family or your family and your parents at the same time, and you're doing things for both of them at the same time. So that's what the sandwich generation is. But I have not found a lot of resources to help people in that generation that are actually good, what I would call good resources.
Right.
So when I start talking about that, it's like a switch goes on, and I'm like, da, 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 da. So I'm telling her, well, somebody needs to write a book about caregiving, and somebody needs to write a book about sandwich generation, and somebody needs to do something. And I said, I don't care if it's me or not, as long as somebody does it, right? And she starts talking to me, and I'm like, this is kind of interesting, because she didn't kind of pass over me. And then what happened is she said, well, I think there should be a book about caregiving someone who is passing away at home, because a lot of people want to die at home, and a lot of people don't die at home.
Right.
And I said, and I'm thinking that is a little bit outside of my realm of experience, right? And so she says to me, but you're a writer and you're a caregiver, but you don't have that type of experience. As I'm thinking this, and I thought, no, I don't. And I said, no, I don't. And she said, well, do you know anybody who does? And I said, yes, I do. What are the odds? And it was you. It was Tammy. Ta-da! And then it was actually kind of funny. Her eyes lit up, and she goes, oh.
So neat.
And so she reached down, and she gave me her card, and she said, contact me after the conference. And I said, okay. And I tell people getting this woman's card is like getting the golden ticket in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, literally.
That is so cool.
It's crazy. So what happened is you and I met with her. I emailed you, and what did I say? You remember more than I do.
Your first sentence was, don't say no.
Yeah.
Until you read this out.
Yes.
When you read all this and we talk this out. And I'm thinking, oh my God.
What are you going to say?
What are you going to ask me? And then as soon as you started describing it to me, I was all in.
Yeah, you're like, this is me. Yeah, totally
I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
So it was just awesome. Meant to be.
Meant to be.
Thank you, big guy.
Yes, definitely. I guess those 2 years of prayers. Lord.
Yeah.
They. I don't guess they worked. They actually did work.
They did.
So that's what happened, and that's what started us on this path.
Right.
And we met with her, and we signed with her, and the book is called On Passing, Gently into Eternity, and we're currently shopping it to publishers.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we ended up starting this
our little video
blog.
What was so fun is when we were meeting with her, we met at the Starbucks in Angels Camp, actually. And we're talking, and she was talking about how different ways people go to promote their books and do those sorts of things. And I think she said something, not in the negative way, but like too bad you guys don't do television or something like that, because that would be a hard thing to do.
And I said, well, we met at the TV studio.
We both do that.
And again, her eyes twinkled. She went, oh.
Yeah.
So
it was so perfect. And so we
for us,
actually felt like doing the video blog would be a lot easier than doing a written blog or something else like that.
Exactly. So we started the video blogs where we talk about different death topics.
Yep.
And
we call it Let's Talk About Death because it, I like that you came up with that name, and I like that because it's such a wide range of subjects to talk about before, pre-death, during death, after death. I mean, it's we cover all of it.
We do.
Yeah.
And the video blog should go on forever because there's so much to talk about. I mean, there's literally so much to talk about. And so our video blogs, you can see them on letstalkaboutdeath.xyz.
Yes.
So it's not a .com, it's a .xyz, because we have to be a little different, because that's how we are.
End of life, end of the alphabet.
Exactly. And so we have our video blogs on there, and then we have them on Facebook. We post them on Facebook and YouTube, which is, I said earlier. And we cover just about everything.
Yeah.
And the book is actually very focused on dying at home. In doing research, what I found was approximately 70% of people say they want to die at home, and approximately 70% of people over 65 die in some form of a medical institution.
Yes.
And that's when you really think about that and you let that sink in, that means only 30% of people actually die at home.
Right.
So then you have to go into why are they not dying at home if that's what they're wanting to do.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of societal issues around that, but I think a big issue in that is the fact that our medical system is actually set up to save people. It doesn't matter what your age is. It doesn't matter what your medical condition is. You call the ambulance, and they are set up to save you.
Yeah.
And
it was when we started doing some research for this book that we both, I think, well, maybe you already knew this, but when I kind of realized for the first time that doctors are not given training,
they aren't given
in
any
their schooling
very,
about
very little
hospice
training.
Or about the end of life or any of that. It's all about saving the life. And,
yes.
But we're all going to die, so it doesn't make sense to me. But I come from a different place, so but my brain doesn't work like that. But
I think it's hard for doctors to have those discussions with people because there's something very staunch in the human psyche about not facing death, and I think as in the American culture we've really taken that to an extreme, and Western European to a certain degree because they've followed that. But it is, unless you discuss death and face it for what it is, it's very hard to embrace life, I think, because we're only here for a finite time. I mean, in the Psalms, it says we are only a vapor. We're here for just such a short time. And if you don't face that it is a short time, maybe your decision making is different than you would if you were like, okay, I'm going to embrace life because I'm only here for this short time. What am I gifted in? What are my dreams? What are my aspirations?
Yeah.
Those types of discussions.
Yeah. And we also realize when we realize that we're only here for a short period of time, that everything we do has a consequence.
Yes.
If we live forever,
you can fix things.
Yeah, there'd be no, I don't know, it would be so different. But
it's different.
We all have our amount of time that we're meant to be here, and I believe that when we're born, that God already knows.
Has a day.
Yeah, when the day and time we're going to die. And as hard as the doctors try and as brilliant as they are, no one's going to live forever. We're not made that way.
No.
We're all going to die, and I think I hope that people become more comfortable talking about this sort of thing and putting things in writing and talking with the whole family.
Exactly. And that's super important, too. If you don't discuss it, then you don't know what someone's wishes are.
Yeah.
And if you don't discuss it, you can't convey your wishes to someone else. And I think it's very difficult for children of, loved parents and maybe even not so loved parents to face the fact that their parents will pass away. So even if you want to discuss it as a parent, sometimes your children aren't ready to discuss it.
Right.
So you have to be sensitive to that as well. But it's like we have a social amnesia towards death.
Yeah. It's so weird. So many people are not comfortable talking about it. We mentioned the Facebook page and the website and all of that. I'm sort of jumping to the side here, but one of the things I was thinking is we get some neat questions and comments and things from other people, which could give us ideas of what other books might be needed later.
Yes, exactly.
When we go to work on this sort of thing. But just as families are not comfortable talking about death, or they don't know what am I supposed to do, And you can't know exactly because all of us are different.
Yes.
So me talking to my mother about her wishes would be completely different than me talking to your mother about her wishes, or you talking to her, because each person is different.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking that we have this. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's hard for friends and family as well.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to work around to.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about end of life.
Right. There's no rules on how to do it because
because it's different for every person.
Yeah.
And end of life caregiving is very different than caregiving, like with what we were talking about earlier with the sandwich generation, which is ongoing.
Right.
Although you pointed out to me once when we were talking about me taking care of my mom, that eventually it will get to end of life caregiving.
Right.
And that's the reality. I always think of it in my head of it doesn't always end well. It doesn't end well. It always ends the same. Caregiving will always end up the same, whether it takes you 2 months to get there
or years
or 20 years.
Yeah. You
will end up in an end of life caregiving scenario if you yourself survive. You know. And to wrap your head around that, I think helps you so that you're not too surprised by it, because it will hit you like a ton of bricks anyway.
Yeah.
We have people who have commented on our page about how they go through the grieving process while their loved one is still alive, especially when hospice comes in and the reality of the situation really sets in.
Yeah.
And
at hospice, we call that anticipatory grief, and it's, I was going to say funny. It's not funny. It's unique in that people go through that, and so many people on the outside looking in who haven't experienced it yet, I think a lot of people think, well, they've already grieved that person. They knew they were going to die. And like with Alzheimer's or something, where they're not the same person they were anyway. But
when they
different.
Actually die, it is
not prepared.
No. The pain is similar, though, because when my best friend was dying of cancer, the grieving is extremely painful when they're still here. And then the pain is similar, but there's the cutoff.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that is something, you can't pre-grieve that.
No.
You know, you hear these ideas about, well, you started grieving when they were alive, and, you know, I started feeling that grief, and it's almost to me like pre-grieving. It's like, you know, you don't have a handle on it.
No, just because you know that someone is going to die and you have that time with them, that doesn't make it easier.
No, it doesn't.
It's not easier.
It's not easier.
No.
It's just, you know, pain.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's important to talk about those sorts of things.
Oh, it is. And to know that you're not alone when you're going through that. There are
absolutely
so many people in the same situation. So many people are in that situation. You are that sandwich generation.
And there's going to be more, because you have the boomer generation just about sort of cresting the hill. Sort of. And they're a huge generation.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of societal issues with that we could spend hours
oh my gosh,
talking about, you know, as far as funding and finances and people having to quit their jobs to take care of their parents, and the fact that most caregivers who are family members don't get paid, but they have to quit working to be able to take care of their parents, or, you know, however it ends up going.
And pay someone else to come in to take care of their parent.
Yes, and there's like this, it's weird sad. Things that happen, and I'm sure it happens at the end of life care as well, that the caregivers that you pay to come in can't do certain things legally, like some of them can't do injections, and they can't. So you as a family member, even though you have no caregiver training, are given the needle or the syringe and the bottle of medication, and you're, you know, no training at all, and here, you know, you do the injection.
It's so hard,
which some people, you know, it's a very difficult thing to do, you know, unless you're like me and you just do it, right?
You do what you have to do.
Exactly.
But some people are not made like you.
Yeah,
and they can't do it.
It's really difficult.
Yeah.
You know, you can see it. And you have to talk about things like that.
Yeah.
To be able to come up with some sort of a solution, a workable solution.
Right. Well, what one of the things I really like about the book, we've been interviewing these different people in different situations. So far, each of the people that we've talked with have had someone die.
Yes.
They're not still in that caregiving section. But how they have all talked about how their role was different than their siblings' role.
Which is,
and everyone kind of seems to go back to the way that they were as children, their role in the family. Some people are made to caregive, and some people are not. And it's not that they're horrible person.
It doesn't mean that they love their parent. Right. I mean, we're talking about parent caregiving. Yeah. It's not that they love their parent any less. It's just, it's very often family dynamics. Yeah. Which was the child growing up who was most likely to take care of the parent or was closer to the parent, or however the dynamic was. There's usually one child, which I always think is really fascinating, who ends up being the caregiver at the end of life, or in the sandwich generation as well. You know, some parents say they go between households, but when you really look into it, they're really with one household most of the time.
Yeah, for sure. What's funny is if I think about our family friends that we have, I can tell already which child is going to be the one to care for them and which one is just not in that way.
And you know with your own children, too.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny. And something I wanted to get to is it's the same with friends, how no one knows how to behave or how to treat somebody who's in that situation, going through that sort of thing. Unless you've done it yourself and been there, you just can only try to imagine, not even close, I'm sure.
Not even close. And then I think depending on the situation that you're in with your parent, even then it becomes different again. Yeah. But some of the emotional issues that you experience are similar. Yeah. You know, from caregiving situation to caregiving situation.
So in your situation right now, how do your friends help you? And how do they seem to make things harder for you?
My friends are very cool. I have very cool friends. Yeah. And if I need help, I'll call up and say I need help. I don't do that very often. Usually it's pretty big. It's like a big thing.
And by help, is it like, will you stay with my mom while I
my mom is actually at a point now that she's good on her own for long periods of time. But there was a time when she wasn't, when she was very ill. So they always knew when she wasn't well because I would stick around. I stick around. I mean, I just don't go anywhere. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things with caregiving you have to think about, especially if you're caring for someone who's not well or at the end of life. You're going to be sitting at home for a long periods of time. I mean, you're just going to be sitting there. And I think that especially with the end of life care, there's a lot of sitting involved. Right. And you just have to wrap your head around that. Right. And you feel like you're not doing anything. But you're actually doing something just by being there. Right. And it's important for people to know that. Yeah. You know, so. But my friends, going back to the friend question, you know, if I didn't want them to come around, I would always say, I don't think this is a good day or whatever. Yeah. Or, you know, can you get me some milk from the store or whatever? Right. So, you know, and it usually worked out. I think you have to be organized. So if you're out at a doctor's appointment, you run in the store really fast, you know, and, you know, that type of thing. Yeah.
And if you're going to want help or not want help, to be honest with
be absolutely honest.
People. Yeah. And that way they'll know when you mean it and you really do need help. I'm thinking about when my mom had, she has seizures, and sometimes she has really big seizures that knock her out for, a couple of weeks. It takes her to recuperate. Yes. And that's what I'm thinking about when she had the latest one. I had all these text messages from people wanting to know how she was doing, and messages on Facebook, and it seemed like they're like everywhere I went, there were people I had to answer. I almost didn't want to open my messages, which is horrible because they're all people who care and want to know. But it was a lot of work.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, to try and keep up with everyone and let everyone know that I'm sorry, this is a really busy time. My mom's okay. Let me get back to you later. But I actually did put on Facebook like a general message to my friends.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, saying I'm not checking my messages right now. I'm with my mom. Whatever. I'll get back to you all later. I'm not ignoring anybody. But
Because it's actually, people are expressing their caring, but it also sometimes feels like extra added pressure.
Yeah.
Because you only have so much, what I always think of it as bandwidth. Like internet bandwidth. There's only so many packages that can go through at one time that you can actually deal with. Otherwise, it's an overload and everything explodes.
Right.
Technically, the internet doesn't do that, but servers, do get slammed and the whole thing. But anyway, and I think each of us only has so much bandwidth, and it's a good idea to know yourself and know how much bandwidth you have. I always thought with myself, because I work primarily from home, what I find is if my mom has more than 3 doctor's appointments a week, everything gets wacky.
Right.
Yet everything slides sideways, because normally I do, at least 1 or 2 stories a week, and then I do the stuff I do here. And you have to know what your bandwidth is so that you can prepare for it.
Yeah.
If she has 2 appointments, it makes it much easier. But that 3 appointments a week, that is the magic number where everything, that's when I'm just scrambling.
Yeah.
The whole week. And it doesn't stop. You don't get a day off.
Right.
You just scramble.
But see, it's so neat to have the conversation.
Yes, exactly.
Everything that we have talked about and that we want to talk about later has to do with being open and having communication
it's having
with people.
the communication.
Because you telling me this right now, I know that if I call you and leave a message and you don't get back to me, you're probably busy with your mom. You probably have a bunch of things going on.
Yeah.
And you don't call me every 5 minutes that you need help with anything. I mean, you never, ever do. But if you did, I would know that you must really need help because you're not the kind of person who's going to ask me.
Yeah, exactly. And so you know your friends too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's part of it as well. You do know your friends. So if they find, if they're in a situation like that or you're in a situation like that, then I know if you call me, Tammy really needs me. Yeah. I better get down there or I better try something from here or, help you somehow. Yeah. That, and that's just knowing your friends. That's having strong friendship too. Right. And it's just all communication.
All of it. I mean,
knowledge, communication. It makes it that little bit easier so you don't overflow.
Yes.
Right? So your bandwidth doesn't go, explode.
Yeah. And so that I don't do the hovering thing like I do with my kids, the helicopter mom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I could totally...
Now they call them jets.
I could totally do that with you. If I thought that you were having a hard time, I'd be like this, Sarah, what do you need? But I would know, but we have that relationship where you can just tell me, back off, woman.
Exactly.
But so much comes down to communication.
It does.
That's one of the things I really love about the book and the video blogs that we're doing and all of that is just hopefully making it just comfortable. Like if you and I can talk about it,
exactly.
Maybe they could talk about it too.
They can talk about it just a little bit at a time. Yeah. Knowledge, understanding helps you. I mean, if you understand that other people are going through this, that helps as well.
Yeah, for sure. So, and no one's ever alone.
No one.
It looks like we have just a minute left. Let's tell again the name of the Facebook page, the website.
Okay. Facebook, you can just look up Let's Talk About Death and you can find us. Website is www.letstalkaboutdeath.xyz.
Yes.
Right? End of the alphabet, end of the road. And then you can find us on email at letstalkaboutdeath12@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and thank you for involving me with your book and all of that. This is so exciting.
Well, thank you, because the book wouldn't be anything without you. So there you go.
Thank you. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time on Tammy's Window on Calaveras.